Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Spirit of Creating. And in today's episode, I wanted to explore the idea of this obsession that we have as adults with the concept of struggle, of when we're learning a new skill, or when we want to make something creatively. We like and we elevate this idea of struggle, resistance, and we kind of play into it. And it doesn't do us any favors, and it doesn't make the journey any more enjoyable. And there's no better success blueprint to look at than children. Because if you want to succeed at something, you think logically to go towards someone that's already done it. And we could replicate or imitate some of their actions. And when it comes to creativity, I don't think there's anyone better to look at than children, because they have this innate ability to learn new skills at an exponential rate and explore and create with just sheer abandon. And they don't take themselves too seriously. And it's all really well and good to say, well, children don't have the responsibilities of adults. Adults have mortgages and bills to pay, so we can't replicate the way they live and share their freedoms. But all of that is true. And we cannot deny that from a very young age, they have a learning agenda that is out of this world. They have to learn to read, write, talk, look at societal rules and conditions and abide by them. They're navigating like a learning landscape from the minute they wake up to until they go to sleep. And yet, in between all that learning, when they get 15 minutes of playtime, they run into the playground and they use their imagination to such an extent that they can take themselves off to a different land, become a different person. And then when the whistle blows, they go back into a classroom, sit in a chair and learn maths. And they do this in a real flexible, agile manner. And they make do with what they have. So you give a child a blank empty toilet roll and some tissue paper, and they will fashion it into a rocket. They will imagine the land that rocket will go to. They imagine what the land looks like and feels like. They will use their imaginations and whatever materials they have at hand to really have a go. And we could learn a good few lessons from them when it comes to learning new skills and exploring our creativity. Because what we tend to do is literally the opposite of what children do. We don't want to fail, so we don't have a go. They're forever failing, and they just go again and again. Everything can elude them until they've mastered the art of it, whether it's tying their shoelaces or understanding how to tell the time. But they don't give up. They just keep going. They persevere until they reach the outcome they want, which is to be able to tell the time or tie their laces. And we could learn a lot by adopting those methods. So when it comes to a new creative project we might have that we want to explore, we could just stop telling the stories to ourselves about how we're not great at art, how we don't have the time, how we don't have the materials and the resources, we don't have the right environment. And we can just adopt their method, which is grab a big biro, a piece of blank paper, and sit in whatever space you happen to be in and write a poem, doodle, do whatever you want to explore without any expectation that it has to be good. It could be like the worst piece of art you've ever created, and you still can stick it on the fridge door and just celebrate the fact that you took part. And develop your skills in that manner with play and joy embedded in them, as opposed to struggle and resistance. Because as adults, we kind of love the idea of struggle and resistance and hard work and uphill struggles. And somehow we symbolize those traits with some kind of adoration, like I really struggled and then I achieved that outcome. I found that really hard and then I succeeded. We want this push and pull story. We don't ever really want to incorporate the idea that, yeah, it was difficult, but I just injected it with as much fun and joy and lightness as possible, and I achieved my outcome. We could tell a different story, and children have a different story to tell all of the time. And we don't really credit them with this. We don't credit them with their meager resources and their limited freedoms and what they create from that. So the next time you want to jump into a creative venture, you want to take part in a creative activity, you want to learn a new skill, I want you to take a child as your mentor and adopt their methods and their techniques and use playfulness, joy, lightheartedness. Don't take yourself so seriously. Don't expect much from yourself. Allow yourself to fail repeatedly and still keep going just for the act of participating. And then celebrate everything you've created, even if to your eye it looks terrible. It's from that space that you evolve and you develop. You know, no child really stays in the space of I'm learning. They never stay in a space where they can't read and they can't write and they can't tell the time. They all evolve and they all develop. And any skill that we adapt and we spend time and energy in repeatedly, even if it's for the smallest segment of time, I'm not saying spend hours and days and months on something if you don't want to, but even if you dedicated 10 to 15 minutes every day or every few days on something creatively that you want to explore, and you go at it in the same way a child would, I can guarantee you there will be development occurring. There will be skills that will be improved upon. There will be works of art that will be created. Even if you have a pile knee deep in absolutely terrible art you wouldn't want to show anybody, there will still be an outcome that you will be proud of at the end of it, whether it's participating, whether it's evolving, and whether it's creating a great piece of art at the end of a trail of terrible pieces. So let's take on board the way kids take on life, and let's use those practices for developing new skills and for our creativity, because creativity really requires us to play. And to play means to not take ourselves so seriously and not see everything as such a struggle and as so difficult. Play, by the very nature of it, implies freedom, expansiveness, abandonment. And if you use those adjectives to go and explore new creative ventures, you're going to have a way better time and a way better outcome, because you're not so rigid and tied up in these limits and boundaries that you've placed on yourself. You've allowed yourself the freedom to explore. And most importantly, you've allowed yourself the freedom to fail and make mistakes and make some bad art, which we all need the freedom to explore before we can get to the good stuff. So go play, go creatively play. And if you get stuck in your play and you can feel your rigidity kick in, just think of the youngest person you know, below the age of 5 preferably, and what they would do if they were in your position, and mimic them, even if it's just for 10 minutes of the day. Pretend it's your 15 minutes of playtime and the whistle has blown and you've got freedom, and go and explore and play for those 15 minutes and rinse the joy out of them for that time. And then by all means, if you want to, after the whistle blows, go back and live your adulting life, go ahead and adult away, but give yourself the grace and the space to have at least a segment of your day, a tiny segment of your day, dedicated to just creatively play. If you have any questions about this episode, you can email me at illustratingbrain@gmail.com, and I shall be back again next week.